You want to be a bow boy. You want to be Robin Hood and his merry men. Maybe not that type. But I'm going to show you how to be the most effective archer in New World using my build, which has got an awesome flow to it in small scale PvP, skirmish and other things like that. But here are my qualifications as to why I can talk to you about this build and why it is so good. Oh my gosh. Sorry. The last stuff he says wannabe. Staggered him. He's low. Got him. Oh, we got this now. Yep, go. I got sweep up. Coming in. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, be sure to like and subscribe and check out my channel for more New World content. Also, if you have any questions, hit me up in the comment section below and I'll answer those questions. You know, I've got close to 1,000 hours of this game across the betas and everything, so I've got a fair bit of this one. All right, so hit me up. Even if you think the question's stupid, I'll still give you a good answer. Thanks, guys. Alright guys, so let's get into the skills right now. So this is me on newworldcalc.org. Firstly, just want to extend a huge appreciation to these guys. You know, sites like this and New World Data were the ones that kept us busy between beta and launch to be able to go in there and tinker around with skills and things like that. Even though most of the skills did change, but the New World community wouldn't be where it is today if it wasn't for you guys. So we really do appreciate you, even though you're probably not going to see this video, but I just have to say that, right? Okay, so firstly, what you're going to want to do is we've got the hunter and we've got the skirmisher tree. Now, I'm going to show you my build where you're not going to be held down by any large animations. I'm talking longer than, you know, a second or half a second. I find in PvP, those kinds of animations are basically just a death trap. Standing still, sure, you may be dishing out damage, but you just become a way easier target for multiple people to hit you. So in my opinion, I really do not like having animations that lock me into place. The exception of that being Rain of Arrows, which is an extremely short animation. Also, you can dodge straight out of it as well. But in comparison to Rapid Shot, well, you're going to be sitting there for, you know, 2 to 3 seconds, and it's just not good enough unless you've got that huge starting distance against double melee. But I find that Rain of Arrows versing those classes is a lot more reliable than being able to use this maybe once every minute in a fight. So I'm going to show you guys how I do this build, leveling from 0 to 20. So that's not going to just give you an idea of what skills you want, but also when you should be putting them in there, which is going to help you as you level through doing, you know, mid-tier PvP and things like that, just to make sure that you've got a good balance to be able to actually still be competitive with people. So firstly, we're going to go for aim true, which obviously is going to help you a lot, being able to trace with the bow, being able to predict with the bow, because your arrows are going to fly faster and they're actually going to hit 30% harder. So that's a must. Then we're going to go over to penetrating shot. So we at least got one skill that's going to cause increased damage as well, not just the base damage for our bow. Now, obviously, because we're doing a PvP build, I'm then going to go over to here in the skirmisher tree and I'm going to go for evade shot, and then I'm going to go straight into Rain of Arrows. Now, I'm just going to make a point here. Poison shot in early game to mid tier up until about level 30, I believe is still a very viable pick, right? I'm not saying that it's a bad pick, but I do find that from that level 35 onwards, it really doesn't stack up. Even if you have gone ahead and put the 12% weapon damage on it and also the 200% damage on the shot, In my opinion, I feel like this isn't as good in wars and things like that where there's mass AoE. Sure, it can help, but as soon as people hit that travel rations, so that second tier of food, they're already gaining 50 HP a second, you know, and poison doesn't cause that to tick off. In the closed beta it did, which was great. It really made it a lot easier to manage people's health. But in the open beta and now in launch, poison does not cause that food buff to be taken off. So they're going to be getting 20 seconds of food buff unless you hit them with a direct hit, or direct damage, I should say. So as soon as people are getting past that tier 2 food, around that 25, level 30, could even be earlier, I find that poison shot while you're leveling, while you're doing PvP in those mid to high tier levels, just doesn't stack up. You know what I mean? You add the damage up of this skill and you compare it to Rain of Arrows, which, you know, does 150% of your damage. It's basically the same. And the difference is this is instant damage. With bow, I'm a firm believer that bow is made for that burst damage. So that's where you're going to be dishing out the most amount of damage as possible in a short period of time. So this kind of skill, I believe that if you're a high skill player, being able to hit things like this is going to be very good for you. In wars and things like that, you're probably going to be taking Rain of Arrows as well as Poison Shot, depending on the situation. Obviously, just to deal out as much AoE damage as possible, because generally the fighting is going to be quite clumped, but doing so, you're going to be missing out on a lot of these passives. But even in a war, I would still personally be taking my build in, just because one, it's what I'm used to. Two, if I get rushed by multiple melee, I've still got escapes and things like that to be able to be competitive. So that's just my personal opinion. This is what's going to allow you to dish out the most amount of damage. Also, with having evade shot as well as penetrating shot, it's going to give you more stagger ability, whereas poison shot, there's no staggers for it. There's no real benefit for it besides a HP loss, whereas when you look at Rain of Arrows, you actually can get slows, and also it has bleed effect of its own anyway, and though it's not as effective as the poison shot second stat. The other thing about this, it's actually going to cause you to put more points into skirmisher, which if you have had a look at the bow tree, this hunter passives is where you're really going to be. So I'm going to show you which is going to give you the most amount of damage, but still be able to give you a certain amount of survivability and that flow. So once we've got those three skills, now you're kind of decked out with your skills, you can actually start taking on some PvP fights if you wanted to. We're going to come back over here. Now, I would say long range is a must, but what we're first going to take is evasive tactics. Because that 20% damage doesn't have a range cap on it like long range does, this is going to be easier earlier game. It's not like it matters, you're going to be leveling up this bow very, very quickly. So then we're going to be taking long range, so we're going to be dealing another 20%. Now you can start to see how the damage is stacking up. If I dodge before I use an attack and they're past 10 meters, well, you know, I'm already doing a huge amount of increase of damage. Now we're going to go over and deck out penetrating shot. This one, not necessarily the best skill, in my opinion. You have to be very good with your movement to be able to line people up, but it does help, and we need to have it to be able to get the next one, which is obviously going to increase that damage of penetrating shot. Now this is a really good one for when people are, you know, trying to escape or even engaging. I always open up with a penetrating shot because one, having that stagger of people further away is great, and obviously you're going to be getting that damage buff because they are 20 meters away, and so it's, you know, once it stacks up with these other things as well, it's going to hit extremely hard. So we're going to take that. I'm just going to quickly talk about opening strike. Now guys, if you see people with builds that are suggesting this ability, I would instantly stop looking at the channel. As you're going to see, as we get towards the end of this build, having a passive or having one of your skill points taken up by an ability, which is only going to be usable once in a whole entire fight, basically, unless you're versing a life staff, which then still you're going to be restarting the fight and you're still only going to do that 20% damage if they're at full HP, isn't really viable in PvP. But having something, like I said, is a one-time use when you've only got a limited amount of skills, it just doesn't make sense to me. And sure, people saying, oh, it's for that first initial heavy hit. Yeah, but once that's done, then what? You're basically limiting yourself in the build later. And what's saying you don't miss that first shot, so then all of a sudden your damage buff from dodging before you shoot comes off? In my opinion, it's just a stupid, even if it stacks with skills, it's just a stupid point to waste. Same with gems as well, guys. Things like being at full HP, it's not possible. Like, it's not possible. If you're versing good PvP players, it's not possible to remain at full stamina or full HP to be able to do that increased amount of damage. You want to be having stuff where it's, if you're using stamina or you're not at full stamina, then you're going to be dishing out more damage, especially with bow, because like I've said, you know, obviously here with evasive tactics, you're going to be dodging before you're using a lot of your skills and things like that. So opening strikes can get bent. We're going to go for arrow range. This is just going to make it easy for you to hit your shots at a further distance as well, making it more reliable to do damage with the bow. And then we're going to come down to bullseye, which is going to give a huge 10% crit chance, which is, this is awesome with bow. Now that we've kind of got a fair bit of damage there, we do have finishing shot. So if your target is below 50 HP, you deal 20% more damage, which is great. It is a really good one. So if you're feeling confident, I'd be putting that one in there. And then now we're going to be going over to skirmisher tree. So we're going to be going to evasive shot. And this is going to be the second skill, which causes them to be staggered back 2 meters. So that's going to help giving you another stagger. So now you can link up penetrating shot with your evade shot, as seen in my videos before. Once you've done this, we're going to be now looking at some increased movement speeds. So dodge and weave is a great one. You know, obviously making sure that you're learning how to weapon swap and things like that after you dodge to cancel out the animation of just being stuck there for a second. So this is going to give you that 10% movement speed. And if you time it well, making sure that you don't fully drain your stamina, having about 1 roll left, you can then have this buff kick in. So this is going to give you 10% increased movement speed for 5 seconds. So that gives you your chance to be able to regen that stamina up to full, to then be able to dodge, animation cancel, dodge, animation cancel. So when you're moving around, you should be moving around at 10%, which is going to help in fights, especially if you need to gain a little bit of distance and you're switched on with that kind of weapon swapping. In terms of the animation cancel, when I'm using bow, what I will do is actually just holster my weapon and pull it back out. So that is using the X key by default, and that will also activate Archer's speed. Just a little tip for you. Now we're going to go back over to the hunter tree. Unbreakable focus is great, basically because you are CCing yourself so much when you're, you know, aiming down sights and trying to shoot effectively with bow. So this is going to be a good one to take. And then we are going to be able to do surprise attack. Now this one is good. This is basically, here's your opening one. If there are those disengages in fights, you're tactically retreating if you have to, or you've gone from killing people to then moving on to the next target, which is a little bit further away. So here's your opening strikes, but it also has a recurrence, which is very helpful. And now we're going to go over to concussion. Obviously, being the headshots, they're a lot harder to hit, but that 20% damage bonus, if you have the opportunity to be able to hit people after certain stuns like riposte, maybe even a vault kick, using all these passives as well as this skill is going to be doing a lot of damage to that person if you can land those headshots, as opposed to knee shot slowed by 10% for 2 seconds. It doesn't mean that they can't dodge, it doesn't mean that they can't evade, and 2 seconds is over like that. You're also going to be going from center mass and aiming for the legs. Now in PvP fights, if you're aiming for the upper chest / neck area or quite high, there is potential for them after a dodge, their animation's still quite low, being able to hit them in the head even when you're aiming at this area. If you're aiming down there, well, I'd say the chances of you either missing, putting arrows in between their arms, potentially even underneath their legs, you know, I've seen whacker things happen. I don't think this is really good enough. I think if this was buffed up a little bit like it was in the betas, it would be a viable option if you were fighting in teams. But for yourself, I don't think this is the best. And like I said, this is burst damage. You want to be trying to dish out as much damage in a short amount of time as possible. And concussion just is one of those passives which, if you land a headshot, and sometimes you land those headshots, you don't even realize you've done it, or you weren't even aiming for it, it's just a little extra bonus. Now we're going to be coming over to here. So this is where it starts getting really tricky. As you can see, I've only got 2 points left. So going the distance, evade shot gives you 15% haste for 5 seconds. Now this is very good. This is very strong. 15% haste buff for 5 seconds is awesome, especially if you are using evade shot to get out, which you would be, and then potentially being able to run away. But I will say this, if I'm having to run away effectively, that means I'm having to turn my back on the person. So I can no longer see what they're doing. If I'm versing a great axe, I don't know if the charge is coming. I'm having to go everything off this. Now it does make it a lot harder. So my answer to this is I put my last 2 points into rain of arrows. So you're going to get a little bit of a bleed, 85%. It's not a big whoop, but every little bit helps. And that is just to get down into hooked arrows. So now your enemy has a 15% slow for 4 seconds, and you're still going to be looking at them and seeing what they're doing. Now it's going to be easy for you to then combo off and all these kinds of things, as opposed to you gaining 15% speed and being able to run away but not being aware of what's going on. Awareness is such a strong point in PvP, and it makes all the difference between a good PvPer and a terrible one. So anyway guys, that is my build. Obviously I didn't take these damage over time because that's not what we're going for. We're not going for these long fights, which is really what catches people off guard and gives you that advantage. It forces them to pot, and then all of a sudden you've got that 30-second window. You know, your skills are going to be up in 10 seconds to be able to do some more damage and stuff like that. For the stats guys, what I run is 100 constitution, so you're going to be getting the increased health by 10% of your physical armor, and also your pot's going to be able to heal you for more, so that's also really good. Then we're going to be going for the 300 points index. So this is by the time you're level 60. These are the stats that you want to be going for. As you can see, the guaranteed critical strike after a dodge roll is extremely strong, especially stacked with evasive tactics. You can also use a skill on it as well. So that would be my opener, would be to dodge. Then I'm going to be going in with a penetrating shot stacked with surprise attack. You can see how the damage starts to become very strong. Bow is a very skill-based weapon though. You have to be extremely precise with the slowest bullet velocity. I have done a weapon comparison here, and in terms of rankings, what I believe is the best range weapon to use. So if you haven't checked out that video, give it a look, because there are some interesting points there. It's also going to help you decide if bow fits your playstyle or not. If you don't have the aim skill or the aim capacity yet, well, that's something that you're learning. Yeah, sure, you can pick up bow and that's going to help you learn. But if you come from a game like online chess and you have no aim whatsoever and you're still learning how to tinker with your sensitivity and things like that, bow definitely wouldn't be the weapon that I would suggest for you to use. I'd be looking at one of those magical weapons. But check out that video, let me know what you think. Also guys, we're going to have a quick look at armor. So I've got a heavy helmet, a heavy chest, then I've got medium gloves and medium boots, followed by light legs. This keeps me in the medium category, means I get an extra dodge as well. As your dex goes up, you're going to get decreased amount of stamina used when you dodge, so it means I'm going to get more of those. And if you look at dodges as an invulnerability period where you can't actually take damage, even if it is a ground effect stun from hammers and things like that, if you dodge at the right time, you will not be hit by those. So this is extremely strong. And with that constitution buff of your max health being increased by 10% of your physical resistance, having these heavier pieces of armor is going to help you. With the dodge roll of light armor, I found at the moment it really doesn't help you in terms of melee. Having a great axe auto attack spam you and being able to lunge 3 meters and still be able to hit you is a bit of bullshit. It's not going to help you in that situation anyway, so why not just be able to take more damage and also have a higher health pool as well. So I hope that tip also helps all my bow boys out there being able to actually get involved with these kinds of fights and not just be afraid of double melee and things like that. Thanks for staying to the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and you found it helpful. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Check my channel out as well. There's a lot of advice across it. And be sure to hit me up in the comment section if you think I missed something. We can always have a discussion about it, and I love doing it. So please do that, guys. Also, continue enjoying exploring this new world.